Hello and welcome back to Mechabellum. My name is Volcata, and I just got out of a really crazy back and forth match here in Mechabellum, a little one-on-one, and it was really intense. And well, I just wanted to share it. Again, I don't always record while I'm playing because I like to just play it casually, but I wanted to share this one because it was pretty epic. So let's jump into the replay and check out what happened. All right, right off, I am not thrilled with our selection options. Our opponent apparently did not have the option for supply specialist either. So we went with heavy armor. Not great with marksman and Mustang because, well, they already don't have armor. But Mustang, marksman, it's a good miscellaneous set of beginning units so that you can shift to prepare for whatever it is that your opponent has. Of course, we're going to need to go into something a little bit sturdier if we come across any real opposition. So let's look at our opponent. Our opponent has sledgehammers, arc lights, and is, of course, the marksman specialist because I start with a level 3 marksman. And that's actually pretty good for us, right? We have a lot of things that marksmen are good for shooting at. And since we already have Mustangs, we don't have to worry about things like arc lights because we have something that can chew up chaff. So we can kind of focus on dealing with the high health targets with our marksmen and rely on our Mustangs to deal with any kind of distraction that they might throw in. Because if I were the opponent, I would be putting in some spam units right now. Probably Fangs. I don't know. I mean, it's a little tough with, Mustangs on the table, but they already have arc lights. So yeah, I'd probably go with Fangs and just slow walk it because it would match the speed with the sledgehammers and the arc lights. But our opponent went with more arc lights, which makes our choice to go with more marksmen even better. So we're going to toy around a little bit with our positioning. Let's go ahead and just jump to the round starting. All right, so I backed up the Mustangs just a little bit more. I wanted them to get ahead of the marksmen just, before they get shot at, which was perfect. I mean, obviously we don't know where the opponent's going to start at, but our Mustangs cross the line just before the arc lights and marksmen can get a shot on ours. So that worked out really well on the spacing. So we're going to win left side because, well, we waited left side. We lose a tower, which is a little unfortunate, but that's okay. That's okay. Their units are slow, so that buys us some time for the tower debuff to wear off. And that's all it took. And that's it for round one. Nice and clean. Now I'm looking pretty hard at this deployment specialist. It's something I don't normally pick up. Because we're going heavy marksman for now, but the shield specialist is free and it counters so many shenanigans if you end up against like an opponent that likes to do heavy sentry missile spam or put something right up front that you need to be able to brunt that initial opening volley. So I'm a big fan of it. So we picked that up. We're bringing in a little bit more of just kind of everything, because obviously they were going to bring in some spam units and just more marksmen for dealing with these heavy health units. The sooner we can get our marksmen into play, the sooner they can start getting experience points so they can start one-shotting these higher health units. Now we get a little overwhelmed here with the crawlers. No surprise. Our Mustangs are kind of our front line, and when they start going against arc lights, they're going to lose in the long run. One surviving Mustang managed to finish off the crawlers finally, but alas, it took a little too long. But our opponent has now shown their hand on what they're going to do for their spam unit. And that helps us pick our direction. I'm gonna grab heavy armor, even though we don't really have anything we want to put it on. And we're gonna bring in Mustangs for dealing with the crawlers, because that's what overwhelmed us. Get a level up on them and pick up the high explosive ammo, which I am just a huge fan of. I think it's one of the best abilities. Because at the end of the day, Mustangs for me are my anti-unit. They're anti-something unit. They're either anti-chaff with high explosive ammo, or they're anti-air with the aerial specialization. I feel like they're one of the best units in the game for dealing with those generic threats. Our opponent's really starting to invest in his arc lights. He's given it extra range, brought extra ones in. This arc light over here is going to be a little problematic because, well, that's an opening in our line. But you can see the high explosive ammo is doing great work. Our tower is going to get fired on. And our Mustangs have done their job. At this point, they're just there to distract. Unfortunately, they're not going to distract long enough. But they did their purpose, right? That time, we didn't lose because of crawlers, which means the Mustangs did their job. Now we have to address the increased threat of the high hit point units. So here we're going to pick up Speed Specialist. This is going to help us get on target a little faster. You know, we are winning over here, but we end up with like Mustangs all kind of in this corner. We need to be able to swing them back across. So that's going to help out. Bring ourselves in another marksman. We're going to give them range so that we can start getting fire on these units a little bit more quickly. And we're still sitting on that armor. We don't really want to put it on a Mustang. We're just kind of waiting for a direction to shift to. It wouldn't be too bad to go steel balls here, but I feel like we're teetering on control, and so I just want to invest a little farther into our marksman and just kind of build out that line. And so that's what we've done. See how much more we got in on those sledgehammers before the fight even started. And if we can get them out of the way, then that means our Mustangs don't have to worry about getting tied up on them. We can start addressing the crawlers a little sooner, and now they're able to collapse on the marksman, which is good. Of course, we are still having problems over here. I kind of expected them to reinforce this side a little bit more, which is why I didn't just put my marksman down here. I didn't think that they would get a free shot on these arc lights. So I just wanted to reinforce our control of the left side. Unfortunately, I probably should have put the marksman down there. Orbital bombardment. It's a, you know, it's a pretty good return for it only being 100 supply cost. And it's time to shift up just a little bit. I need to start putting my opponent kind of off because, you know, so far we've been only focusing on 2 units. It's not winning it for us, but it's slowing the loss. But they've really invested in these slow units, and they're investing in additional range. So we're going to bring in a couple of Stormcallers. You know, at this point, we're not really expecting to heavily invest in them, but we do stop the combat line at range. And being able to get some of that rocket fire in will help our Mustangs and everything else just kind of clear up what's left over. Now we put down a bunch of shields here. I really didn't expect them to go this far over with the orbital bombardment. Unfortunately, it was just wrong. I thought about it. I'm like, I knew this was open. I'm like, I'm going to spend that little extra on something else. You know, we've picked up our bonus damage and bonus defense. So unfortunately, this side is vulnerable, and that's where they hit. our orbital bombardment doing pretty well. But their bombardment takes out our Mustangs sufficiently to allow the crawlers to just free run on the line. So that was definitely a loss for us. If we had not been cheap and put that one more shield down, we probably would have, I don't know if won it, but we would have done a lot better. You know, we're bleeding out here. I'm not moved by any of these. So we're going to skip, and it looks like our opponent's doing the same. We're still sitting on this heavy armor. It's wasted. We should be trying to get some advantage out of it, but I don't, you know, I mean, look at all this stuff. This isn't anything that really calls for armor. So we're going to start to reinforce this side, bringing these Mustangs in. We kind of want to spread things out a little bit so that they don't get caught in any splash, you know, along with their buddies. And we decided to go ahead and just get some more range on the Mustangs. Mainly that was to get them a little farther out of range of things like the arc lights. If they're more spread out because they're firing at longer range, then they're less bunched up for the AoE splash of things like the arc lights and the sledgehammers. So that was kind of my logic for going with the bonus range on here. I stared at it a long time. I thought about going for the damage, but ultimately I just kind of want them to get on fire sooner and to be a little bit more spread out. And we finally drop a marksman over here. But unfortunately, our opponent has brought down crawlers. So we did take out that arc light. That was a problem, but we have an unsupported marksman over here dealing with the crawlers. That isn't going to work out. Yeah, this side is still collapsing on us. We also, by the way, picked up fire because, you know, high hit point units that are slow, you know, we'll just let them cook a bit. That's a pretty bad collapse, though. Obviously, we can't suffer another loss like that. I'm worried when I see the elite crawler, and sure enough, he's going to pick it up. There's nothing there for us, so we're going to skip out. We're not going to shift the crawlers. It's just not going to happen. They have too much splash damage. It just wouldn't do us any good. But we anticipate that they're going to start bringing in elite crawlers. And so our answer is going to be wasps. You know, we're 7 rounds into the game. We've got a bit of money to spend. So I'm going to bring in level 2 wasps. Immediately give them the ground specialization. And put them in the corners. We want them to come in late. We don't want them getting in range of what little anti-air they have, which are the marksmen. So we're hoping that just, you know, in the firefight that these marksmen are going to get taken down. But just to be a little safer, we're also going to pick up ranged for the wasps. Now, I would like to give them shields, but again, they only have 3 units that can shoot at air. So giving them range with the ground specialization means that they're going to get on target a little sooner, and they're going to be able to take down like all these crawlers without having to chase them so much. Our center is still collapsing pretty hard. We did catch our opponent off guard though with these wasps, which is pretty nice. The only thing that's saving us at this point, they have 1 standing marksman, which was their original marksman from being a marksman specialist. And fortunately, these guys are all distracted, so they're leaving him behind to the horde of wasps are sneaking up behind. And the wasps are, I mean, arguably they're a little bit of a desperation move. You know, we saw a weakness in our opponent, but also it's there to distract the opponent. I do not at all intend to continue to build out wasps. I know we invested a lot in their upgrades, but I want our opponent to be forced to shift to anti-air while we do something else. So that's really the whole point to why we got wasps in there and made them a real threat. And I'm going to count on our opponent spending most of their money this round trying to counter a bunch of wasps, expecting me to bring more in. And sure enough, our opponent has spent money on anti-aircraft for their arc lights. I'm not a big fan of this upgrade. Really am not. And the reason I'm not is because it just gives them the ability to shoot air. When we look at the upgrade for Mustangs, it gives them 75% additional range and additional damage. So they actually end up targeting air before anything else, which turns them into anti-air specialists. You know, if these guys are busy doing other things, they're never going to get shots on the air, which is why I'm not a fan of that upgrade. But we are going to shift again. We are throwing everything we've got now into Rhinos. We're going to get ourselves a whirlwind right off the bat and give them some healing, because again, we're expecting anti-air to be their focus. And we're really close to, winning the fight here. And I know he's not going to expect Rhinos. And look at that, just cleaning house. And with the Rhinos taking out the whole groups of crawlers, that frees up our wasps to, pick off higher damage targets. And this is working beautifully. Our Rhino's healing up. I'm not worried about him walking through the fire from our Stormcallers, because he's going to heal. And, they're just generally a little bit more tanky than anything else we had. So here we're kind of, wishing that we'd stuck with our heavy armor, which I didn't mention, but we put it on a Mustang, because we sat on it for so long. I'm like, wait, I got to get some use out of this. But here, it's a couple of rounds of turning the tide. It's not running away with it. Now, I expect him to take acid or smoke, both of which are devastating to me. He skips. We are picking up the super heavy armor, however, because now we have units that are worthy of armor. By the way, we also picked up the amplifying core last round, which we immediately put on Rhino. And this is the beginning of a serious drain on our income, because those off-screen abilities that came up were so low on health. We cannot afford one round of an off-screen ability giving him one round, because then we just lose. So we have to do this, even though this isn't really helpful to us. They have enough damage on the board. These shields are not going to last. But we got to put them there, because if there's acid coming on the field, we have to block that. So that's a little unfortunate. So we've got a little bit of money to spare. We just level up our Stormcallers. We're not going to invest in any of their abilities. And we bring in a couple level 2 Rhinos. We had mid was, collapsing pretty hard. I didn't expect these Rhinos to survive in the long term. I thought they'd survive a little longer than that. I was kind of disappointed in their performance there. But, they did delay things a little bit more, distracted the units a little bit more. And to be honest, that's really all we need. Again, our wasps are helping. They're not, one-shotting everything. They're not running the board for us. But, as long as their anti-air units are being distracted by the Rhinos, our wasps are ground specialists. So they are getting some damage in. It was a worthwhile investment. Now, we actually do lose a round. Woo-hoo-hoo. 136. Now we absolutely can't lose a round. Improved steel ball. I would love to pick this up, because steel balls would do pretty well. But obviously we can't, shift again. It's too late. So we're going to go with bonus damage on one of our units, because, we got Rhinos. We know that our opponent is going to have bombardment ready, so we have to spam our shields again. Remember, early on, we picked up shield device specialist. This is why. And we're going to give mechanical rage to our Rhinos, because we just need them to get on target a little bit faster. get that damage out a little bit more quickly. A couple more level 2 rhinos to go along with them. And we kind of toy back and forth of where we're going to place them. You know, that middle line really collapsed fast, and I want them in the middle, but I also kind of don't, because if the middle line is so vulnerable, I don't want the rhinos just being wasted. So I compromise and I put one off to the side, so we're pairing up a couple of them with, you know, high damage augments. I just cluster one here in the middle. I expect them to shield. That's okay. You know, we have our Stormcallers, and they're great at taking down shields. So combining our Stormcallers with our bombardment, we figure that we can just counter any kind of shields they have. Let the rhinos do their job. I love watching them just clean house on all those crawlers. There's so much going on the screen, it's hard to keep track of all of it. But their back line is still free firing, but we now have our Rhino who's gotten around behind them. He's going to make a run over there for the tower. Excellent. And that's going to be all she wrote for him, because they don't have the damage to take out that heavy armored Rhino, or super heavy armored Rhino. Oh, look at him go. MVP. And you know, our wasps are a secondary win condition, because if they can't shoot air because he doesn't have a lot of anti-air, then, you know, if they do manage to take down like our rhinos, they still have to have something behind that can deal with those wasps. And senior attack specialist, you can't pass that up. So we're going to shield up again. We're trying to squeeze in level ups when we can afford them. But we are going to pick up our photonic coating. Mostly we're doing that for these guys in the middle, because again, the middle guys seem to be pretty vulnerable. The ones on the outside, not so much. I mean, we saw this guy walk the line. It wouldn't have made a difference for him. I was back and forth on whether or not to get that, because it was expensive and we could have gotten a couple more units. But I just want them to survive longer. And, you know, it's going to help. It's going to help. We have to have faith. We have so many units that we want to level up, and we just don't have the money for it. So we had $50 left over, so we tossed down a, sentry missile. We didn't expect it to do much, but sentry missiles, even when they hit a high hit point unit, they slow the unit. And here you can see that the photonic coating actually helped out a lot. Those guys took a lot of heat there in the middle. It didn't save them, but it kept them alive for much longer, which really, that was just the importance, right? It's giving our backline time to bring in the damage. And this guy, and he's tanking. Look at that. He was tanking that melting point. I mean, taking down the tower is why he survived. But, oh, so MVP. Oh, wow, that was an intense match. We threw everything at this guy. We had so many different types of units. We had to pivot multiple times. It was a good match, and our opponent really gave us a hard run. I imagine if they had one more round with these melting points, then that might have been all for us. I don't think that we could have overcome them, but it ran out of time. So that was a great match. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing it. I wish I had recorded it while I was going through it, because all the time I was right on the edge. But those are the best matches. So, let me know what you would have done differently, either for me or for the opponent. And let me know if you are enjoying this kind of content. Again, Mechabellum isn't my main thing on this channel, but I enjoy the game, and it's fun to throw these in and share every now and then. But thank you very much for coming out. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in a future video. If you enjoyed this, you may want to check out one of these other videos, and thank you very much for your time.